I'm like in my 40s now. I don't tell anyone that I play in a grindcore band.
Welcome to the 7th episode of the Cast That Ends Creation. I'm your host, Chris Deering, and this is the show where I interview bands and public figures from the mathcore community. If you beautiful people in chat have any questions or comments, I will try my best to read them aloud. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this in your car and have no idea what I'm talking about, this show is first shot live every Sunday. Feel free to join us on Twitch, twitch.tv/the Cast That Ends Creation for the live cast. With all that out of the way, let me introduce our guest tonight, who's dropping their 7th album through Noise Salvation Records, November 20th. Welcome in Topon from the legendary Fuck the Facts. How's it going?
Hi. Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. Notice how I didn't attempt to say the album name? Not going to embarrass myself. But I do understand it means Full Darkness. What's the name exactly?
Plein Noir.
One more time.
Plein Noir.
Plein Noir.
Yeah,
am I in the ballpark?
Yeah, no, totally, man.
So it's also being released on your own label, Noise Salvation. Salvation. How's that going for you? How's the reception been so far? I know it's just the one single, right? But
no, it's a full-length album.
Well, no, like you've only released one single.
We just released the second one on Friday.
Oh, dope.
Yeah. So so we released 2 songs so far for this album. It's like our first album in 5 years.
Right.
So I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing because we took a bit of a break for a while and weren't really sure when we got back what kind of reception we'd have. But I gotta say it's been, as always, it's like it's overwhelming in a way. Whenever I think any musician puts their stuff out there and people are receptive and people want to hear what you're creating, it's an amazing feeling. So we've been doing this for a long time, and most of the time we have like no expectations about anything. So whenever things start going well, it's a really good feeling. It feels really good.
Right. Well, I guess your main problem is making sure people know that you're still around, that y'all are, back at it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the things we were thinking, like the world moves so fast now, right? So like 5 years is ages. Like, I don't know, you're a young guy. How old were you like 5 years ago? Like 13 or something, like everyone changes so drastically. So we kind of expect, here we are, we're going to put out a new album and everyone's going to be like, who the hell is this? Who the fuck are these old dudes playing music? But luckily, people have been super receptive, and a lot of the people that have supported the band, 5 years ago, they're there, like the last album released back in 2015 was our first full length on our own label. And, at the same time, we didn't know what to expect. And it was a really humbling experience. And now we put this album out five years later. And, since we do it all ourselves, we get to see every single order that comes in. We're like, oh, there's this guy, there's like that guy that we know from Poland. And here's this guy from Texas. And there's this guys from Vancouver. And these people from all over the world that have been supporting us all these years are still there.
Hell yeah. So you brought it up, but you guys have been around for a long time, 21 years. You've toured the world. You've been on Relapse. You've had success most people can dream of, right? I'm sure a lot of labels would be chomping at the bit to release this album. Why'd y'all decide to do this by yourselves?
This one, I think we just wanted to get it out. When we did Desire Will Rot, it was our first album after our contract with Relapse ended. We did look around a little bit to see if there was a label that, might have been interested. Like, we didn't look at all the labels in the world. We kind of picked a select few that we probably would have been stoked to work with, but nothing panned out. And we were just like, all right, we're just going to release it ourselves. And that's kind of like, the whole beginning of the whole Noise Salvation thing, really. But this time around, the album we'd actually been working on it kind of behind the scenes for a while. And it was getting to a point where it was like, we just want to get this out, it felt like that it was more important just to kind of get it out there and I guess in a way get the ball rolling again for the band, than to kind of try and shop it around. So, yeah, I don't know. Like the whole label thing is tricky, right? We've been independent so long, so yeah, maybe a label out there would be interested. Maybe down the road we do work with a label again. Maybe we never work with a label again. It's kind of like, it's not one of those things that's going to define us and make it so that we do what we do. Um, like I was saying, before we even started this, like we're just normal people. Like we're just like, you and everyone else. Like, I got kids upstairs, I got family, I got, a house and a job and all that stuff, and when it comes to doing the band and the music stuff, we do this because we love it and we enjoy it. We're not expecting, to be rich off it. We're not even really expecting to make any money off of this, as long as it's something that we can do, and that for the time that we do it, we enjoy it. Like no one starts like a grindcore band called Fuck the Facts with dreams of living in a mansion and being Motley Crue.
Well, you say that, but your last album was nominated for a Juno Award. I assume that's basically the Grammys for Canada.
Yeah. The last two, actually, Desire Will Rot, and then the last album we put out on Relapse, Die Miserable, was also that was back in 2012, and that was actually the very first year of a new category that they started, which is called like the hard rock metal album of the year, right? So without that category, like a band like us would never make it to the Junos. Like I think the Grammys have a similar sort of category for like extreme metal or something.
Yeah, extreme metal, right? With like Slayer and Slipknot. It's like, I guess, right? But you're not really tapping into
Well, we don't really have any Slayers or Slipknots here, so we're not dealing with the same competition.
Well, it's still crazy that they would nominate a grindcore band for the hard rock category, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, but I think it even shows just kind of how the world is changing. Like this music isn't really underground anymore like it was back in the day. Like even when I started doing this stuff back in like the mid late 90s, it was starting to blow up, and now it's, I don't know, man, metal is pretty mainstream. Maybe not the metal that we play, but metal as a genre in general, I think is quite mainstream.
Yeah, I could agree with that. So this kind of metal is like obscured really from view in the United States. I assume Canada, it has to be bigger than if they're willing to put you guys up on their like music awards show, right? Is this like can you walk into a bar and hear a grindcore band playing over the radio, or what's?
No, it's the same here as it is everywhere else in the world. It's the same here as it is in the US, like. Yeah, it's cool. Like we're from here, and I think because Canada, like obviously the country's huge, but our population is not like you guys at all. That we've really been kind of embraced by the country. Like when we started touring back in the early '90s, like 2001. 2002 is when we really started getting busy. Like there was no like grindcore bands touring. There were grindcore bands like in each city playing music and stuff, but to be a grindcore band and to jump in a van and like go across the country, it just wasn't really a thing that was happening. So I think we're one of the bands that kind of started doing that, at least in Canada, and we've been really lucky that we've made a lot of friends along the way, and people have just been supportive of us since day one.
Oh, that's dope, man. So how did you land the nomination? You just know like the right guy or whatever is able to slip your name in there, or?
Well, you have to submit for them. So you don't just like the Junos, probably exactly like any awards, they just don't randomly like scour the internet looking for albums. You have to actually say, hey, I put out an album, check it out. So So yeah, so I guess they picked it out. I don't know how many, albums get submitted and all that stuff, but regardless, it's a really cool thing. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like, when we heard, it was like, wow, that's fucking crazy. Like,
Right?
we got, nominated for a Juno, and it's,
Like take a couple laps
yeah,
around the house, right? Celebrate.
yeah. It's such a weird thing because I started Fuck the Facts really as like I'm the only member because I started this as a recording project, just in my dad's basement with a 4-track and like a drum machine, back in, like, like I was saying, like the late '90s, like around '97. And I had no dreams of like, oh, I'm gonna build this up, and we're gonna get nominated for a Juno, or we're gonna like tour the world, or we're gonna sign with Relapse. It's just like I was just some kid that wanted to like make punk and metal music and put it out there. So the fact that all this other stuff kind of happened is really cool, and it's like, this is fucking crazy, because I never had that as a goal, but the fact that it happened is like, it's cool, and I think it's motivating in a way, but at the same time, it's not one of those things that kind of defines what we do. It's like, yeah, getting nominated for a Juno is cool. Like, getting to tour and signing with Relapse, all that stuff's cool. But would I stop making music if, I didn't have those successes? I would like to think not.
Yeah, I got you, man. So what did happen with Relapse? Like, was there like creative differences between you guys, or did they just not want to renew your contract?
Yeah, they just didn't want to renew our contract. We had basically we signed, it was it was a 1 album deal with two, what the fuck are those even called now? 2 options. So basically, up to 3. So really, we only signed for 1 album, which was Stigmata High Five, which we put back out in 2006. Then we did our second album with them, Disgorge Mexico, 2009, I believe, or 2008, one of those. And then we did Die Miserable was the last album we did with them, was in 2011 and 2012. I think 2012 or 2011. Anyway, one of those. So yeah, basically we did all those 3 albums with them, and they just were kind of like, yeah, we're gonna, it was fun, but we're gonna move on and try different things. And yeah, it just, that shit happens, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
yeah, there's nothing you can do. But it was definitely a bit of a bummer. Like for me, Relapse, especially in the '90s, was like a huge influence on what I did. Bands like Cephalic Carnage and Dillinger Escape Plan, and like
For
all that
sure.
stuff. All that stuff coming up in the '90s on Relapse, and just like how eclectic the label was, and I don't know, it played a huge role. And so, and what before we did Stigmata High Five, we shopped around to a whole bunch of labels, and the fact that Relapse is the one that actually came knocking was like, this is fucking crazy. And we basically everyone like quit their job, and we all just went on the road for like a few years straight, and just grindcore toured as much as we could.
Hell yeah, man. Living the dream. That is awesome, dude.
Yeah, someone's dream.
So you guys recorded this in your own studio. I believe is it number 16 studio? I forgot what it's called now.
No, Apartment 2.
Apartment 2. I don't know why I came up with that.
Uh,
But
it's a better name.
so how long have you guys been operating the studio?
Uh, 10 years now. So we started it. Um, uh, so after we did our second album for Relapse, which was Disgorge Mexico, and we were getting ready to do our third, we didn't have the same recording budget as before. We spent a lot of money to do Disgorge Mexico. Like, we had a recording advance from the label, plus we put in a lot of our own money. And this is when we were like touring a lot, so obviously no one was making money anymore. So we decided that instead of kind of going into like a studio and paying for all that stuff, that we would just try and do it ourselves. So basically we just set up in my mom's basement, which was that when we did Die Miserable, actually all the equipment was in my mom's like laundry room, and we just like ran cables to another room. And yeah, that's what we did. Die miserable. And so the idea was basically like, instead of taking like, that money and putting it into a recording at another studio, let's take that money and let's start investing into gear. And that was kind of the idea. And as time went on, we just kind of like, built up gear, built up the studio, and made it something that actually like, a lot of bands come in and record with us, besides even like local bands. We got bands that come down from Montreal. I've had a band come from upstate New York, Toronto, a lot of places. We do a lot of mixing for bands all over the world and mastering and stuff. So besides it being our own recording studio where we can do our own stuff, it's also become like another business that can actually like, it's become like an income. So in the end, it really paid off.
That's sick, man. You got the band, the studio, the label. You got like your whole package in house. That is really awesome, man.
Yeah, I think it has part to do with like my personality. Maybe like I'm a little bit of a control freak, where I just like I have to have kind of my hands in everything if possible. Like we basically do it all ourselves. That you're talking like DIY. Like earlier today, like Mel and I were just like cutting out cardboard, getting ready to like ship all the vinyl for this new album. So it's yeah, everything. Besides like the PR stuff, which we get like John like Asher to help us with. Everything else we do like 100% ourselves.
Do you guys like organize your own tours and stuff?
Yeah, we do actually. Or we did, like, right. It's been a while since we've toured, but
Right.
yeah, at the end we really did. Like when we signed with, so obviously when we started in the early days, we did it ourselves. We had to. We didn't have a choice. Like this is like the like like MySpace. Like I don't even know if you remember MySpace.
Oh
When
no, no, I
MySpace
was
didn't
around.
even,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so MySpace didn't exist. Even back then, it was just like email, and it was. Yeah, it was really fucking weird booking tours back then. I can't imagine what people did before even my time, where like everything was done on the phone. So
They would just
uh,
attach messages to pigeons and send them out the window and hope they arrived
it must have
again.
been fucking wild, man. But yeah, anyway, so in those early days, obviously we did it ourselves. Then when we signed with Relapse, we got some help from them. They obviously put us on some tours, and they were helping do our stuff. And we always kind of booked ourselves as well. Like we never had a specific booking agent. Like if you wanted to book the band, you could just write to us. It's we never felt like we were kind of like above stuff like that. So after doing that, we worked with a couple of other booking agents. But one of the things we started to realize is that when we were working with these other booking agents, who we were always kind of like a small fish on their roster, even the same with like our days with Relapse, we were a really small band. There was like, okay, they have Mastodon, and here we are, fuck the facts. It's like obviously we're not priority number one. And it was kind of the same vibe when we were working with booking agents. They would always get us the shows, and we'd always get paid, but we didn't feel like we were playing the best shows. It was kind of weird. You'd drive to St. Louis, and it's like you get paid $400, but you played in front of like 12 people. It just didn't make sense. So we decided to kind of just book ourselves, so that we could be in contact with people that were actually into the band and wanted to see us and wanted to kind of like support us. So yeah, it's not, maybe we don't make four, maybe we'll just get $200, but we're playing a room with like 80 kids that are like having a blast, so we're having a blast. So there was always kind of that balance where it's like yeah, you need money obviously to make put gas in the van and keep yourself on the road and pay for certain things. But if you're just making money and you're not having fun, it's like, what's the point? And as time went on, we kind of, that was really the idea. It's like, we want to, we obviously need to make money so that, we're not siphoning money out of our own pockets, but we mainly just want to have a good time. So yeah, so booking our own tours like that stuff just kind of made sense. We had some opportunities, that came up along the way that helped a lot. Like we toured with Black Dahlia Murder, and that was like a really big tour that we did, and a few other ones, maybe a bit smaller like that. But besides that, we always just booked ourselves.
Okay. So back to the recording of this. Actually, about your studio, what's like the biggest project you've had a hand in besides your own releases?
Uh, I don't know. I don't think I've done anything huge. Let me try and see. Like I've worked with some. I worked with like I don't know if you know Luke LeMay from Gorguts.
I know
Gorguts is like
Gorgas. Yeah.
yeah. So I had like Luke LeMay, he is Gorguts. He's come down to the studio and we worked on a movie soundtrack together actually.
Movie
So
soundtrack. What? That's wild.
yeah, it was a lot
Going
of fun.
mainstream. Going mainstream.
Yeah, yeah. So he did that actually just a couple of weeks ago. Uh, it was kind of hush hush, but I don't think it matters now. We had the original, or not, the guy that played guitar on Cryptopsy back in like the None So Vile days and stuff. He was down at
Oh
the
shit.
studio recording some solos for a band from here actually called Deformatory. Yeah, I don't know. I worked with a lot of guys. The guys from Neuraxis have been down here with their other band, Upsleep Mankind, or I guess one of the guys from Neuraxis, at Upsleep Mankind, and yeah, I don't know.
What's the
I
movie
got,
that the soundtrack was for?
uh, you know what? I don't remember the name of the movie,
Okay. Okay.
but it's a friend of mine called his name's Dave Hall, and he actually did Maryland Death Fest, the movie back in the day.
Okay.
He's done a lot of fucking really fucked up movies, and he actually did when we released a DVD called Disgorge Mexico, the DVD where we played the whole album live and we recorded it, and then there's a second part of the DVD where he made a movie for the entire album.
Oh
And it's
shit.
it's extremely fucked up. He's done videos like if you ever see, we have a video for the song called "Drift" off "Die Miserable." He did that video. The Sound of Your Smashed Head. He did that video. So yeah, he's done a lot of really fucked up movies and videos. I feel bad that I don't remember the name of the movie we did it for. It was the Church of something. But this is a long time ago now. This is probably getting close to like 4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I got you, man. So how long did recording this take?
It was kind of a staggered recording. So basically, once we had all the songs written, Vil came into the studio and he tracked all of his drums, I think, over like 2 or 3 days. And then I basically took all those tracks and I brought them home and I worked on the guitars for a decent amount of time. Um, just at home, like tracking them. A lot of the guitars I just tracked DI at home, and then I would bring them to the studio when we had reamp. And after that, Mel started doing her vocals, and again, it was just kind of like over a period of time. So I don't know, like the whole recording process itself was like I think it was over a year from when
Oh
we
wow.
where we first tracked the drums to where we were done all of the tracking. And then it was mixing the album. Actually, one of the things that kind of helped us get this thing done was this whole pandemic, which it sucks in a lot of ways, but the pandemic happened and it basically cleared my schedule. And I was like, well, this is like the perfect time for me to finish this album. So I kind of just buckled down and just like really dug into it.
For sure, man. The pandemic like brought so many people together like for making music. It's crazy how much stuff is coming out specifically because of that, Get all that extra
Yeah.
time to spend in the studio.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you're like me, you hate the mixing and mastering process. How many times did you bang your head against the desk while you were making this?
Oh yeah, I always do. It's horrible. Yeah, it's messed up when you're working on your own stuff. I find, like, uh,
Because you're always second
I
guessing yourself. You're just like, oh, is this really as good as I think it is?
yeah, and then you just kind of you got to get to a point where you just like, you're like that's good. I'm good
Yeah,
with
yeah. You
this.
gotta like stop yourself because you're tired of your brain constantly breaking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, you record yourself as well, right? And you've done
Yeah.
this stuff. Yeah, so you know what's up exactly, right? It's kind of one of those things that in a way I'm like, it could be fun, if an outside person does it, but I do it. I got to do it and yeah, but yeah, no. A lot
Yeah,
of
you
time
want that
it's
control over your art. That's why I do it by myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you want that. Yeah. I think it's one of the things that's kind of also started to sort of like define our sound that we do things ourselves, It's the same reason why Mel does all of our album art, Like we don't outsource, like we've got people to do shirt designs and stuff for us, but when it comes to actual like the artwork of the releases, we really like to get Mel to do them. Like we actually, because it's just kind of like you look at it and it's like, okay, that's like a Fuck the Facts album, So I think of the recording in a similar way. It's like that's us. For better or worse, like that's us.
For sure, man. So Osorer wants to know in the chat, how many guitar tracks would you end up layering, and what kind of amps did you use?
That's a good question for guitar. I'm trying to think. So I did at least I think four, because I think I double. So I did obviously left and right. Some parts I did an additional left and right. So say there's like four main guitars, and then the layering after that really depends on the leads and stuff. So I had some stereo leads, I had some mono leads, and different harmonies like that.
Is that like four guitars playing the same thing, or did you have like two doing
Yeah,
something else?
it depends on the part. So I would usually make, so there's the main rhythm guitar. So what I would just play as a rhythm, and then there's either a harmony, which that would be the other layer. If not, then it would be another layer of the same rhythm. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got you.
Right. So there's always that main track. There's that main layer of four guitars, and then after that, there's like additional leads that get layered, depending on if they're mono, if they're stereo. If it's mono, obviously I just play once. If it's stereo, I'll double track it, and yeah, I'll play with stuff like that. I used like amp wise, I use a lot of different stuff. I think for the main tone, I used my Marshall JMP with 5150 as well. So I'll run two amps, which is something that I've done for a long time on a lot of recordings. Well, I'll have one kind of like really saturated like metal tone. So like my 5150 is like the metal tone, and then I'll have a cleaner, more, it's still dirty, but it's like where you kind of really get to hear like more of the twang of the strings and stuff amp,
Right,
which
right. More of
I'll
like the
use.
articulation and stuff, while the other side is
Yeah.
all the high gain.
Yeah, so that this time I think I used my Marshall. Before I also have a Garnet amp, which I used to use a lot for that. And I definitely use that on this recording as well. Like because I have the studio space and I actually have like a lot of amps and stuff, that when I would come to specific parts, I'd be like, oh, I want to do like, I want to try this amp on this lead, and this amp. So I probably at least tried all the amps I had, at least for fun. I don't remember if all of them ended up being on the album, but I definitely tried them all.
So how are you gonna do this live? You just gonna take one amp with you? Or you got like an Axe Effects with all this stuff queued up on it, or you gonna take like five amps with you?
Yeah. Well, it's a tricky thing. Like there's always somewhat of a compromise when it comes to doing stuff live, right?
Right.
So we have two guitars live, and sometimes on the recording, well, there's three harmonies, maybe there's four harmonies, but we're gonna kind of pick the ones that are the most important and play those. Sometimes we'll maybe have a harmony on like a separate like a sampler track, basic harmony. But yeah, it's always a compromise. And I
Yeah.
think every album that we've done, there's always been some form of like studioness. Like like I said, like the whole band started as a studio project, and like when we write the songs, obviously we write them jamming and we play them together, but at the end of it, we just we think about what's going to sound best for the song and the album uh, in the recording studio. We're not that concerned about it live, because I want people to listen to this album at home and enjoy it. And like, you know what, maybe there's something a little bit missing live, but I don't know. It's just the compromise of what it is, right? So
No, I'm totally with you on that. I think all the like tricks and stuff you can do in the studio, it's fair game. Some people think that it's like cheating, but it's just all about how it sounds. Like if it sounds good, then it sounds good, right? Like,
yeah, and it's a different thing, live and studio. Like I definitely feel, we put a lot of work into our live show as well and our live performance. So I'm not trying to say that, I don't care and we cut all these corners when we play live. I'm just saying, there's got to be some sort of compromise we don't want to like sacrifice the album, what we're doing there for just the live show, right? I see them as kind of two different animals and we approach them a bit differently. Right. And there's songs that we've written that are straight up just studio songs, with like no intention of playing them live because they're just like, completely different. And it's just a different experience, for the person sitting at home or like on the bus listening to the album to the person that comes to the show and sees it live. So, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
Right, it'd be ridiculous to bring along like three other guitarists with you and like every amp that you use and everything. So yeah,
and it's just not realistic, right?
Yeah.
Some bands can do that, and more power to them. So, but no, it just wasn't in the cards for us.
So you were saying that you have a second guitarist with you live, so you guys bring on a hired hand then to play?
Yeah, we've almost always had a second guitarist. There's always been two guitars. I think there's only been a few times when we were kind of like in between guitar, like a second guitar players that we've toured without one just because we were so busy touring and stuff. We didn't have the time to stop. But there's always been one. Actually, our drummer joined the band as the other guitar player. And he only got on drums because our drummer before him was like so sketchy and never showing up to practice, so that like we would just start jamming together, and that's how he became the drummer. He actually had to the first album that we did for Relapse, which was Stigmata High Five, it was like 2 or 3 months before, I don't even know, I think it was 2 months before we went into the studio. And I told him, I was like, we're gonna kick the drummer out. Like, you got to learn all this stuff on drums because we're going to record. And he did it. So
he was a drummer before too, or did he learn just because of that? Okay.
No, he played drums before as well. He played in another band. Actually, he played in a local band here called Insurrection for a while. So he knew how to play drums. It wasn't like completely new. And actually, our sketchy drummer sometimes would show up, and he would have to jump on the kit and be like, "This is how you play the song," right? So it was weird, but yeah, got to give him props for doing that.
So
I think he still complains about being the drummer sometimes. It's been like 15 years, and he's still like, "I don't want to be the drummer." I'm saying that because I know he's listening.
So over the course of your releases, the sound has changed dramatically. Honestly, the first album I heard of y'all's was Stigmata High Five. I had seen the promotion for Disgorge Mexico, and I was like, okay, let's hear their studio album. And holy shit, man, that blew me away. But I never checked any of your older stuff out until I was researching for this interview. And I was surprised to find out it was a one-man project. You started it in 1999, right? Or
yeah, roughly there. Like, there's some recordings that date to like 97 and stuff. Like there's stuff like I have like a 4-track, but it didn't have a name, but I released that stuff in like 99. So I gave it its name in 99.
Okay. So what drove you to make this music by yourself? Like, why didn't you try to get a band first?
I just wanted to do stuff, like at the time when I started, I was playing bass in a few death metal bands in town. But I just kind of felt like we just talked about doing stuff and never really did anything. I also had a lot of influences outside of death metal that, I wasn't able to like express or do anything with. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to do something. Like, I started really getting into more kind of like I don't know, like it's like hardcore, but like back in the day hardcore, like I say, like, you know, bands like Spaz and like Dystopia and His Hero Is Gone. So like, you know, like a punk metal kind of thing. And I started really getting into bands like that, like Agents of Satan and stuff. And I was like listening to this and I was like, fuck, like, you know, this is like, it was something I could really relate to. And I was like, I could do this, you know, these are just like shitty kids like me with like putting out shitty recordings and they're awesome. So that was kind of like one of the things that gave me, uh, I guess the motivation to do it, you know, like discovering that. Because before that, I listened to a lot of like, you know, death metal, which was awesome. Like, you know, when I was younger, I loved like Deicide and Cannibal Corpse. Like, I still love that stuff. But it always was like this kind of like glossy metal maniacs thing. They're bigger than life, you know. So I always viewed it that way. But when I discovered like this kind of like underground punk hardcore scene, I could really relate it to it, and it kind of like, you know, motivated me to do my own thing, and it just kind of grew from that. Um, I think not starting it as a band is just that I don't know, I just didn't want to fuck around. Like I knew how complicated bands are. I'm sure you know how
Yeah,
complicated
yeah. You were
every
tired of
musician.
waiting for people to get their shit together.
Yeah, and I didn't like there I didn't really know a lot of people that were in the same kind of like wavelength as me. You know, it's nothing against anyone else really. I just like I liked a lot of weird music, you know, like I like a lot of weird music, and I wouldn't have been able to find anyone that kind of wanted to do that, you know, like even if you see what we do now is weird. If you listen to the very first recording, it's fucking like it's super weird all over the place. So yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of developing that, and I did that I think for a year or two, and then like in 2001, I got a friend of mine who is actually a vocalist in a death metal band that I was into, and he had just started to play drums, and we started jamming, and that's kind of when the first like band incarnation started. And I think that's when I brought it to like a different level. It was like, okay, I did all the recordings because I used to do lots of recordings at home, and I was always tape trading and sending shit out all the time. And it's like, okay, now I want to play shows. So we started I think January 2001 we started jamming, and he had like been playing drums for like 2 weeks maybe. And August 2001 we played our first show. You know, so
Damn.
it was just like, yeah, I'm sure it was horrible, but you know, we just fucking wanted to get out there and start doing stuff.
What was the first release with like an actual band?
Mullet Fever. Mullet Fever is the first album. I think actually we did the 409 EP. It's with
Wait,
the
so what's
band.
Discoing the Dead then? I thought that was just
So
a one.
Discoing the Dead is the last thing that I did by myself.
Okay, okay. I was gonna say because that totally sounds like a drum machine on there, and I was like, "There's no way
Yeah.
it's a
Oh
real
yeah.
guy."
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude,
That's a
that's fucking
drum
sick, man.
machine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those
No.
old drum machines, man. You can just tell by the machine gun sound.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I
No, but
love
that's
that
a
drum
sick
machine.
release, man. You have all the movie quotes and stuff going on in it. That's
Hmm.
really awesome. I love
Hmm.
how it opens up and everything. It's so good. It just
Yeah. I
like
was
peak
listening.
MySpace.
Oh yeah. Fuck yeah. Like fucking the sample's longer than the song. Yeah. Um, I was listening to someone had uploaded actually recently like a split tape I did back in the day. The guy ripped the whole thing on YouTube, and I hadn't heard it in years, but I listened to it, and there's so many samples, and it brought back all this shit in my head. And I was like, I know why I put those samples, because like I didn't write enough music, but I had to like, it was for like a split tape, and the guy's like, all right, you need like 20 minutes of music, but I only had like, you know, maybe 14 minutes of music, so I had like 6 minutes of samples. Yeah.
That's sick, dude. Oh man. So initially, was it hard to work with other people on this? I mean, this is your baby.
Uh, yes and no. Like, yeah, I think, you know, because it is kind of my baby, sometimes it's difficult to compromise in certain ways. But since the beginning of the band, I've really wanted the people that came into the band to feel like they were me. Like I started this project to have like, um, limitless creativity. Like, there's no walls. You want to do something, you just do it. And so anyone that came into the band, I wanted them to kind of like bring all of their influences and all of their ideas, whatever they were into, and just put it out there, and I feel like we've always done that. We've had a few different members along the way, and it's always been like, okay, what are you into? You want to write some stuff? Let's just get it all going. Like you talk about the very first days, like when we released Mullet Fever, there's a couple of like actual like rap songs on that, and that's our vocalist at the time, who was like the first vocalist for the band before Mel. So he was only there for like about a year, but he was an old friend of mine. And he was really into rap. And I was like, man, you want to fucking do rap? Fuck it. Let's just do it. Let's just put a couple of rap songs on this grindcore album. Like, who cares? And because it was like, yeah, who cares? Like, and I'm sure people have listened to that and been like, why the fuck is this shit on here? Like, this doesn't make any sense. But I don't know, man. It made sense for us. And we even tried to do some of those songs live. I'm sure it was horrible, but we tried, like, I don't know. That's just kind of always been the way the band goes. It's just like, let's not overthink this stuff. Let's not feel like we need to fit into some sort of like, like portray some sort of image or pretend to be people that we're not. We're just like, this is who we are. Like the music that we write, that's what comes out naturally. We're not overthinking shit or doing stuff that we feel like people want us to do. We really just do what we want to do, and we've been lucky enough that people have enjoyed it.
Right. Good music doesn't have rules. Like you should be able to do whatever you want and just let it come out of you, organically.
Yeah, I think so. At the same time, like there's something to be said for bands that can kind of create like some sort of like mystique and an image and a whole kind of storyline around their thing. And, like it's not in me to do that. I'm not that kind of person. I'm way too fucking all over the place in my brain to kind of focus on one little kind of like storyline.
Yeah. So Stigmata High Five had a lot of elements that you could hear in mathcore bands that were around the same time, like Psyopus, See You Next Tuesday. It had been a couple of years since I had heard Stigmata High Five, so I listened to it again, and I was just like, holy shit, dude, that's like totally something from Psyopus or See You Next Tuesday. Did you take influence from those bands, or did they take influence from? You think they took influence from you? Were you even aware of like their existence? What was going on around that time?
Well, we toured with Psyopus. We toured
Oh
with
shit,
Psyopus for for a month. Yeah, we actually became really good friends with those guys. I still talk to those guys.
dude! Chris Arp is amazing, freaking god.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how much guitar he even plays anymore.
I believe he has a what do you call it? I think it's a jazz like school or something.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. The last time we saw him, we were playing in Binghamton, New York, and he came out to see us. And yeah, he was like totally. I think he was going to school for jazz music, and I think he was totally like fuck metal, like doesn't. And but yeah, he's an incredible guitar player. And we had a blast touring with those guys. Like the tour itself was horrible. But we
What do you
had
mean? What do you mean? What happened?
it was just like a really not a lot of great shows and stuff. It was like a month-long tour with yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man. At the time, this is we just released Disgorge Mexico, so I think it was like 2008 or something that we did this tour with them. It was us. So it was Fuck the Facts, Psyopus, War from a Harlot's Mouth. I don't know if you remember those guys from Germany. Those guys are also still good friends. And Left to Vanish. So it was a four band bill. And yeah, I don't know. There's some great moments. Like we used to do this thing called Metallica Friday where we would do, actually I wasn't really involved with it, but like some of the other guys in our band and Chris Arp and Psyopus guys would do Metallica covers every Friday at whatever show we were in whatever city. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I love those guys. They were great. I don't think they were influenced from us. I don't think they probably heard us before. I knew who they were before we toured with them, but I hadn't listened to them a lot. But yeah, it was fucking crazy. That was a really crazy. That's like was like the peak of MySpace.
Right.
when that was happening. I actually remember every show we would arrive and Chris Arp would pull out his laptop and he'd jump on MySpace and you just start fucking like, I don't know what it was, like friending people or whatever. You'd fucking just like nonstop, like for like half an hour.
Nah, man, you would get the bot that would friend people for you.
I don't think he had the bot because he was just there all by himself, fucking like online doing it. Yeah, whatever was happening. But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So, what was your favorite mathcore band around that time, excluding Psyopus, because I feel like you're gonna name them? But what was your other like MySpace grind band? I guess.
Fuck, I don't know. Yeah, Psyopus, but like Psyopus, it's mainly because we toured with them and it was a lot of fun. It wasn't a band that I listened to a lot.
So you weren't like super into like the whole MySpace grind thing. Like Arsonists Get All the Girls, Daughters, things like that. Blocus.
I know those bands. But I wouldn't say any of those bands were really an influence.
Okay.
I think like the only like what I would say mathcore band that I could think of off at least now would be the Dillinger.
Okay.
Dillinger, like that's mathy, right?
Yeah, that's mathcore, 100%.
That's pretty techie shit. And I saw Dillinger back in '97, I think it was, and they played like it was Dillinger with Jesuit. Oh no, Jesuit didn't make it, but Botch. I don't know if you remember Botch.
Shit. Dude, yeah, that's a show right there.
Yeah, it's a crazy fucking show. And there's a band from Ottawa called Buried Inside. I don't know if you remember those guys. They were actually on Relapse. They were on Relapse for a while. So this was like their second show. So back in '97, I had no idea who Dillinger was. I just went to shows because that's what you did back then. And yeah, the Dillinger fucking played this. I think they had only released Under the Running Board, so even Calculating Infinity wasn't even out. But anyway, Dillinger played it. I was like, this is fucking insane. I was like blown away. I was one of like maybe fucking 20 or 30 people in the room. This is like very early in their career, but I was hooked, man. I bought Under the Running Board. I bought their first CD, like the self-titled one, the EP. And I listened to that shit like fucking crazy. And obviously when Calculating Infinity came out, I listened to that stuff like crazy, and I tried to rip off, like I'm nowhere near a good enough guitar player to play like them, but I tried to rip off their style for sure. There's a lot of shit that like, I think like this sounds like Dillinger. Like I did a lot of that stuff for sure.
He's like, let's get a drum machine, get some audio samples in here. Let's do this shit, man.
yeah, for sure.
So, what did you think though of bands like Daughters and Number 12, things like that? Like, were you like, it's that's off to the side. Like, I'm not really into that kind of stuff, or
No, it's cool, man. Like, I don't know. I don't shit on anyone for like.
Well, it's all personal taste. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's personal taste. Like I don't.
Like, I'll tell you that I didn't like that stuff back in the day. I stayed as far away from mathcore as possible back in the day, and then I rediscovered it a couple years ago. 5 years ago now. But
yeah, I don't know. I didn't really realize it was mathcore or what it was. I don't know. You know what? I there might have been a point where I think I was like a little bit biased towards. Or I just wasn't feeling as much some of the MySpace era stuff. I don't know why. Maybe I was just going too fucking grindcore or something. But I don't know. Like, Daughters. I think their first album.
Hell yeah, dude! Canada
songs. The more like this. Is that the first one?
Yeah, it's their first album.
Okay. That makes sense. But that's not the one where he sounds like Elvis, right?
Oh, right. No, that's the next one. It's Hell Songs.
Okay. Yeah, Hell Songs. Okay. So Canada Songs I had, and I remembered enjoying it. Hell Songs, I don't remember even really listening to it that much. But the other bands you mentioned, like Arsenic Get All the Girls, I don't think I heard it. You know what? I feel like because I also worked at a music venue. Doing live sound. I think I did live sound for those guys when they came through a few years ago. And they were really nice guys from what I remember. Uh, but
I feel like I put you on the spot. I'm kind of sorry.
no, it's fine. It's just stuff that I haven't thought about in like fucking like a decade plus. It's such an old period. So I'm trying to like remember how I was back then, and it's hard. I went to Montreal. I saw the Locust in Montreal, and I specifically remember that being a really good show. I enjoyed the show, I think, more than I've enjoyed some of their albums, but live it was like deadly tight. It was super good. See you next Tuesday. I know the band. I'm not super familiar with the music though.
Dude, you gotta check
So
out Parasite. It is insane. Oh my god, that's what
is
got me
that
into
their
this.
that's their album? That's the
That's
name of the
the
album?
debut album. That's their debut album.
Okay,
They have
cool.
one other one afterwards, but Parasite. Holy shit, man. Okay,
Yeah.
so back to you guys because we're talking about fuck the facts here. So now your music has definitely incorporated more of a sludgy post metal sound. I actually saw someone in the comments for your first singles video calling you post grindcore, which I think is actually a pretty good definition. What are your current influences?
Mm. I think my current influences are a lot of my old influences. I haven't paid as much attention to newer stuff that's coming out. Not for any reason. It's just that I just haven't. When we took a break a few years ago, I really shut off all that stuff. I was never much of a social media person or any of that stuff before anyway. So when the band stopped, I was like, fuck, I don't have to deal with any of this shit. So I just like turned all that stuff off and just stopped paying attention. Like I don't need to read all these metal websites and stuff anymore. Like who cares? So I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on. Uh, but more now as stuff has started to pick up, I'm starting to pay more attention. I'm listening out for more bands. Like I don't know, I'm still horrible at like naming all the bands, but I know there's a lot of good stuff coming out from young bands now. But when I sit down and I pick up my guitar or when I'm jamming with a drummer, a lot of it's just kind of what it's. I feel like there's a period in your life where you're the most gonna, that there's a period of your life that's gonna stick with you the longest. And for me, it's like kind of the mid '90s to like early 2000s. Like just that's when like music was like my life, and I was so immersed into it, and I was really listening to everything and discovering a lot of stuff. Before like kind of even before I started my own band and just started doing my own thing, I was just more about like discovering other bands. So when I sit down and I play stuff, a lot of it goes back to a lot of early death metal, a lot of, like I say, a lot of early hardcore and punk. There are things that we write that are influenced by bands that we've toured with, like we toured a bunch with Ken Mode. There's definitely a couple of things we wrote. There was like, oh, this is kind of like Ken Mode. That's cool, and I don't think we ever wrote anything we thought that was like Psyopus. I don't think we're not good enough to do that, but yeah, I don't know, man. That's kind of the influences. It's just like the stuff that I was into, and I'm not trying to be like the old man, like oh, it was so much better back then. It's just like it wasn't. It was just different, but I was younger back then, and it just kind of like affected me differently, and it's just one of those things that sticks with you forever.
I got you, man. That's interesting because I would say that your sound now is like, I don't know, kind of contemporary, I guess, with some of the other artists that are going around. I thought that you guys would be, or that you would be more influenced by like the whole, what do you call that? Black and sludge kind of stuff that's going on right now. I
Cool.
can't think of bands off the top of my head now, but yeah, I thought for sure that y'all were listening to some more current stuff. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that you came
Oh,
to this sound without that stuff influencing you.
Yeah, but I still hear I still like listen to whatever's kind of happening. If a friend recommends something and they're like, "Hey, check this out," like I'll listen to it. Like I'm not.
Yeah, you're not completely closed off. I got you.
Yeah, no, no, definitely not. If anything, sometimes I feel like, oh, I should probably check out more things, but I just don't. I'm not like a 19-year-old kid anymore. I have like two kids and like all this other shit going on in my life. Sometimes it's hard to check out as much new stuff as I did before. But yeah, it's cool. It's funny you mentioned some of this stuff because I had when we put out the first single, like the Plain Wassar. I had friends texting me, or one friend specifically was like, "Dude, it's totally like it reminded him of like I don't know, maybe said post-hardcore or something like some like weird a screamo." One guy said screamo, and
Okay.
I was like, yeah, and I was like, I don't even know what the fuck screamo is, but yeah, yeah. So I guess there's stuff that we're maybe influenced by that maybe we don't even know as much. Gets back to what I was saying, right? We just kind of like play what we play, and when we hear stuff, when we like it, we don't worry about it. Oh, is this fast enough? Or is this brutal enough? Or is it technical enough? Or whatever. It's just like, that's cool. Let's just go with it. I think some of it, like you're talking like the sludge elements, that I do feel like a lot of the stuff is probably slowed down a bit. I don't know, maybe it's age or something, but I definitely feel like we've probably slowed down a couple of notches.
Yeah, but it's still like I don't know, intense. I guess it's your music's hard to describe. Some of it's like this uplifting kind of moments, like with the
Yeah,
what do you? I guess like you have these kind of like metalcore melodies happening, and then you have like the super fast brutal parts, and it's really interesting the melting pot of your sound.
yeah, cool. Yeah, I hope so. And hopefully it sounds natural because I don't know, we don't I definitely love melody. Like I'm a huge fan. Like I love blast beats and total like chaos and destruction, but I find mixing that with like melodic stuff is, like I used to love like, old Catatonia and Paradise Lost, stuff like that. This is like, a big influence on a lot of the stuff we do. And those aren't fucking grindcore bands at all or anything like that. But I really like the kind of melodies that those bands did, and we like kind of, I guess, sad music or dark music. Like a lot of the themes that even Mel works with in the lyrics are pretty dark on the album. And I don't know, there's something about that. We like music that kind of stirs emotion.
Right, right. That's why I was really into Stigmata High Five when I first heard it, because like I love this stuff that just turns on a dime, like from really intense moments to just like a beautiful uplifting part. It's like that's
Yeah,
awesome, man. That it takes real skill to write something like that flows well, instead of like just being this jarring experience. And I feel like y'all did a really good job with that.
cool. Well, like I said, it's not forced. We just kind of do it. We're not trying to be wacky. Maybe we end up being wacky in some ways, but we're not trying to.
Oh, I don't think it's wacky necessarily. Like I said, it still flows really really well. It's not like you're not like trying to be cute or whatever with it. I think it's really good, man. So let's go on to the writing process here. I assume you're mainly directing it. You were saying people bring in things here and there, but I would assume you're the one that's kind of putting it all together, right?
Yeah, well, I think so. Phil and I, like our drummer, are really, I guess, like the writing force. I think especially on this album, where it was just the two of us doing the music. We actually had a couple of songs from before that we took the break that like ex members had kind of like inputted on as well or helped write as well. But a lot of the writing is me and our drummer Vil, and like I said, our drummer Vil is also a guitar player. So he's a crazy good. He's a much better guitar player than I am. So he writes a lot of the crazy stuff that you hear. Maybe the super like hard shit to play. It's probably him that wrote it. But yeah, it's mainly the two of us will do it. Like sometimes we'll demo some stuff at home, but mostly the stuff that we write is just jamming. We'll just be like in the jam space and we'll just like start playing. Like I said, we've been jamming together for about 15 years now. So it just comes like really naturally. I think even after we had taken a break and we hadn't jammed for a year or so, thanks. We hadn't jammed for a year or so. It came really naturally to start just playing again, And a song like Plain Water Star that is like the first single we put out. That song was written completely just jamming, just in the jam space. It's actually the very first song that we wrote after our break. So, yeah.
That's sick, man. So I just lost my spot. Perfect. Okay, so before we move on, just wanted to make sure chat knows you guys can just drop questions anytime. I will definitely try to read them. So you were talking about having this long break. What did happen in 2017? Did you guys like actually break up then, or it just seems like your social media posts just stopped there and then started back May last year? So what happened exactly?
Yeah, we stopped. We kind of.
Because I didn't see like an announcement that y'all broke up or anything like that. You just stopped.
Yeah, we never. I don't know. I'm personally not a fan of the whole like we're breaking up last show kind of thing or anything. Just because I don't know. It's just my personal preference. I think it's an easy card to play when you're to kind of like cash in on. It's like
you break up, wait a couple of years. Oh, reunion tour, come on out here. Yeah, we're gonna break up.
Just like we're breaking up, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're breaking up. Like all these people that never cared about you, all of a sudden care about you. So I don't know. It's just like I don't know, but. We never broke up. It wasn't like, oh, we're breaking up, but we did decide to take a break, which was like a conscious sort of thing. When we put out Desire Will Rot. So Desire Will Rot's the last album we put out in 2015. And we toured on that into 2016. And we kind of did all that stuff knowing that was going to be the last tours and the last anything for who knows when. Like, so we came home, we did our last show, it was like in Italy. We came home and everyone just like, all right, see ya, and that was it. And I don't know, there wasn't really any plan then until we like sat around for a while, and then I wrote to our drummer Vil, and I was like, we went out, we got a beer together, and I was like, do you want to just start jamming? And we decided, we just started jamming with no intention. It wasn't like, oh, we're getting the band back together and we're going to do all this stuff. No, it was just like, let's start jamming and have fun. If it's not fun, we'll just fucking stop and go back to doing what we were doing before. But yeah, no, it's fun. Like I said, it came really naturally, and we just started writing stuff and yeah, and like you said, like we did everything with the album kind of like behind the scenes, because we didn't really know what we wanted to do, so we didn't want to get out there and be at some point like, oh, we're writing a new album, oh, we're starting to record. We just kind of did all that shit, like, even the video for the first song, like, we did that actually almost a year ago.
Oh wow!
And we just kind of like we're doing all this stuff, and then when it was time when we were like, okay, let's do this, we just kind of put it all out there. So yeah, I don't know. It's one of those. Well, it's a weird thing, man. Like I've been doing this band for what you say, like I don't know, like over 20 years, right? So more than half of my life has been this band. It's a weird thing, because to me it's not even just a band, it's part of who I am, right? So
right.
It's a delicate relationship that I have with it. Sometimes it brings me a lot of enjoyment, but when we took the break, it was like, I don't like doing this anymore. I have to, I don't know, I had to stop. Yeah, whatever it was, it just was kind of one of those things. And I felt like when I was talking about it with people even at the time, where it's like, I don't think I liked touring the last 3 years that we did it. I just did it because that's what we had always done, but went out on the road and just played shows. But I feel like I wasn't really happy doing it, and I just kind of needed to stop. And when we got back together and we talked about it, it was like, all right, let's do this. But, it's a bit of a different approach now. We're different people, and, we're all older with different responsibilities and things going on in our lives that, um, if we're going to do it, it's before it was like, okay, hey, like I said, we signed a Relapse, everyone quit their jobs and let's go on the road for like a few years. Now it's like, okay, like the band is fun, but we're not going to like sacrifice, our own personal lives to, go play some grindcore shows.
So are y'all trying to get out and tour next year if things open up, or you just gonna do a couple local shows or something?
Yeah, I don't know if touring is really in the cards. I don't know. Like it's something we'd have to check out, like that hasn't, obviously with the whole pandemic and everything that's happened, it's just not even a discussion
Well,
we've
say things
had.
open up next year. Like, what are you personally wanting to go on tour?
I would like to go play a few shows. Yeah, for sure. I don't know if we could keep doing like, 5, 6 week tours and stuff like that. Like I said, just because, everyone's life is different now, everyone kind of like maintained really low key lives and jobs just so that we could like at the drop of the hat go on tour, but that's not the situation that we're in anymore. So I definitely miss playing shows, and would like to play some shows. Like obviously we just put out this album, we would have loved to play like at least a hometown release show,
Yeah.
and a few shows around that. We were supposed to go play Maryland Death Fest in May. That got canceled. We were supposed to play some shows around that. So,
Dude, I
you
saw that,
know,
and on the flyer, your logo is so far down. Like, what the heck are they doing, man? You need to be higher up there, you know? I saw that, I'm like, they have to be like, at least in the middle of this thing, and you're just like way down here. I'm like, what? This doesn't make any sense, man.
it's all good, man. It's all good. No, it's cool. Yeah, we played Maryland Death Fest a couple of times before. The last time was like 10 years ago. We were super stoked that we got invited back because I'm sure it's not even the same anymore. It's probably bigger than it was even 10 years ago. So it was, but it was always a blast. We played a lot of different festivals, but Maryland Death Fest is like the festival for the kind of music that we play. You
Right.
know what I mean?
It's the
Whereas we
mecca
play,
for this kind of music.
yeah, yeah. Besides that, I think actually like maybe we played Obscene Extreme. That's maybe another one, but yeah, those are just a joy to play, and I hope we get to play it next year. I don't know how good things are looking now. I don't think they're looking very good, so we'll see even next year
Well,
what the
I've
cards are
been
going to
hearing
be.
people that are like do like lighting and sound and stuff for these shows that like go around and tour and for like big tours and stuff. I've heard that they're saying that they're getting ready for like March and stuff to like try to go out and stuff. I think it's a little soon, but there's some
Hmm.
optimism at least going along and going around.
Yeah, I understand stuff needs to get planned in advance, so you can't blame people for trying to get the ball rolling, right? It's the
Right.
same here. Like there's shows announced in November and stuff. It's like I don't know how
Oh
realistic
yeah, I don't
that
know
is,
about that.
but I understand that there's a lot of businesses that are suffering and they need to, and a lot of bands. There's like there's a lot of bands that this is actually musicians out there that this is their career. Like I like not being able to tour and not do this stuff like, is actually probably saving me money because I get to go to work. But for other bands, that's their job. So I can see how it's tough for a lot of people.
So you and Mel are together. How long have you guys been together?
Since 2002.
That's crazy,
So
man.
over like 18 years.
And in a band, like that's wild. Were you scared to get like romantically involved? Afraid that the band might fall apart if y'all broke up, that kind of thing?
um, so we were already together when she joined the band. She
Oh.
actually, so we were dating, and like I said, our original our vocalist, like the original band vocalist, the rapper guy, he didn't want to play some shows, but she was actually like, this isn't the first band that Mel has been in. She played in hardcore and metal bands before this
Oh,
as a
really? As a
vocalist. Yeah,
vocalist? Oh, wow, that's wild, dude.
yeah, she was a vocalist. We actually, before we even met, we played a show together, and we didn't even know. Like we played. She played in her band, and I played my band. We never talked, never met, or anything. And a year or two later, we actually like hooked up. So uh, yeah. So what happened was like while we were dating, that our old vocalist didn't want to play a couple of shows, or he was kind of on his way out anyway. So I just asked Mel if she could fill in for the shows, and she agreed. And that kind of obviously just turned into her staying in the band. So, but yeah, it's a crazy thing. I think for any band, like we're not the only couple that's in a band, but I'm sure it's one of those things that's like, uh, I don't know. I would say now it's awesome always, because it just like um, makes it really easy, and it's like we're always working on stuff together as if like, we were a couple and I was still doing this and she was just like, maybe some like normal woman. She'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, this is stupid, like, but since we both do this together, we're in it together. And I think it's actually one of those things that's actually made our relationship last. Like, there's obviously lots of other reasons, but I think it's helped and it's made it better because we've always had this project. So, like now we have two kids together, but really the band was like our first kid. So before any kids. Yeah. So before any kids showed up, it was like band. And we were super focused on doing this, like where I remember like years and years ago, we were having trouble with some members, like, and because we were super gung ho, this is even before we signed to Relapse, we were super gung ho and we had members that were a bit flaky and we were like sitting at my kitchen table. Actually, I've been in this house forever. So just here. And we were like, all right, this is, we're just going to fucking do what we want to do. And whoever leaves. And it was just like going full out. And it's just been gung ho since then. And it's really cool, man. And it kind of goes with the band where there's like the progression of just who we are as people and who we are as artists and musicians and things. And I think that's one of the things I enjoy the most about Fuck the Facts is just that I can look back at it and, like there was a period where I'd look back and I'd just be like, I turn red. I'm just so fucking embarrassed about some of the shit I did in the past. I'm like, this is so bad. But now I look back and I'm like, you know what? This is like, that's who I was at the time. It's like if you look through your yearbook or something, you're like, fuck, I look like shit. Or someone like takes like a shitty picture of you, like the beach, you're like, but looking back on it now, I'm like, this is awesome. Like, as fucked up as it is, like I was saying, like those rap songs or, we did a lot of fucking weird shit. So I look back on it and I'm like, I'm glad I did all that fucked up shit because it just kind of like, I always just stayed true to what it was. And I have a really clear picture of the person I was, like probably played some really shitty guitar and like progressively got better and all these things. So yeah. I don't know. It's been a really fun experience and it's really cool that, we've been able to enjoy it together,
Yeah, you get to share with somebody like intimately.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And, it's like, I don't know if it's weird, like for our drummer, Vil, because, we're the couple and he's like not the couple, but, he's really been there for a really long time. Like this guy joined the band when he was, I think 18 years old or something. And now he's like, mid 30s. Like, it's crazy that we've all kind of grown up together and done this together and still want to keep doing it.
He says he's 35 and fat. I see you, Vil. Is it weird for you being in this band? What's up? Okay, so you have two kids, and you're in a band called Fuck the Facts. How do you balance being parents with being metal as fuck?
I'm not that metal, but yeah.
I assume you have like play dates and like some kind of childcare, that kind of thing. What do other parents think of your life, of your, I guess, your band, and what do they think about it?
Well, we would never bring that up to anyone. Like, I don't know, it might,
Yeah.
when you're like, in your like early 20s and stuff, it's cool to be in a band, right? You tell all your friends, like, come see my band and do all this shit. Like, I'm like in my 40s now. I don't tell anyone that I play in a grindcore band. Like, none of my friends want to leave their house, let alone to go see some fucking shitty grindcore band. Like,
None of them
um,
recognize you. Be like, oh shit, you're the guy from Fuck the Facts. You got the Juno nomination.
No, no. I don't talk to, like, I stopped years because I have, like, obviously friends that are, like, around my age that I hang out with and I watch hockey games with and all that shit. But, like, I don't even talk about my band. Like, I stopped talking about it, like, ages ago. Because it's just be weird. So obviously, yeah, we don't bring it up. So I have two kids. My youngest is 2 and my oldest is 10. And my oldest one, I think she thinks it's kind of cool that her parents are in a band. But yeah, she's not going to go and talk about it, I think, with her friends. I joke about it with her sometimes because I'm a dad. So I got to make like a whole bunch of like horrible jokes. So I got to be like, she's in like grade 5. And I'm like, so your friend's asking about the new Fuck the Facts album? It's like, don't leak the album to your friends. And she's just like embarrassed by stupid shit. But yeah, it's funny too, man, because like obviously when I started this whole thing, like Fuck the Facts, when I was like, so much younger, I never imagined I would have all these like Fuck the Facts t-shirts sitting here with my like little kids having to explain all this shit. I just kind of do this stuff.
What was her first word? Was it fuck by any chance?
No, no, it wasn't.
It's just like going to school and saying. Have they said the F word in class or anything? Because they heard it from here.
No, well, my oldest is the only one that can talk. She knows. I don't know. She can say fuck the facts, but
Yeah.
I think she's not supposed to say like the like fuck elsewhere. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you can say fuck as long as you follow with the facts. That's kind of the rule we have.
So what does she think of your music?
No, she doesn't fucking care. Yeah, she's not into metal. She likes Taylor Swift and
Oh, what?
like,
How did you let this happen? Your metal parents.
yeah, I guess we're not that metal. As yeah, no, she says she likes it because it's us, but no, it's not her thing. Yeah, not at all. Yeah, because I listen to like, as obviously I work in this as well. I work with a lot of different like death metal bands and stuff, so I'll be listening to a lot of metal around the house sometimes, and she tolerates it, but she really doesn't care for it. I had this dream, like, when I was younger, before I had kids, I was like, it'd be awesome. I have a kid; they're gonna want to listen to Morbid Angel with me and stuff. But no,
Hell yeah.
that's not the reality. maybe my second one will. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the label. How long have you been doing Noise Salvation?
2014, I think. We
Okay.
released, yeah, we released a EP called Abandoned, and that was kind of the beginning of the label. So we had released stuff before that independently. We just never gave it a name. But I don't know. We kind of decided like, all right, we're gonna keep doing this. I think this is the Relapse thing was done, and we knew we were gonna go solo. So we started that, and
Just to try to like legitimize the music or something, or
I don't know. I don't want to say. I don't think it was really trying to like legitimize. It was like having a label was kind of one of those things that I always had in the back of my head that I would have liked to do. Like I did it in
okay.
the past as well. Like I said, I did a lot of tape trading and stuff like that. So I had various kind of labels uh, back in the day. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't about legitimizing. I think it was just kind of something I wanted to do,
Okay.
and yeah, we just kind of rolled with it. But we only released like fuck the facts stuff. I think we released like one side project that we had, and it was more recently, like a couple of years ago, that I put out a couple of recordings for other bands. But the label is still like basically 95% just kind of there for the band. Like I've
Okay.
had people write me and be like, "Oh, how do we sign with Noise Salvation?" It's like we're not a real label. Like it's not that kind of thing.
He's like, keep it moving, come on. What's the hardest aspect of running the label?
Doing all the shit DIY, you know, it's a lot of fucking work, man. Like,
Is it just you, or is it the whole band that's running it?
well, we do everything together. You know, now it's been a bit trickier because of the whole pandemic thing. So I haven't even seen Vil since the summer. We went to a cottage
Oh
together,
shit.
but yeah, so I haven't really. But you know, he's kind of been doing his thing on his end, and Mel and I are kind of doing our thing here. So um, yeah, I don't know, man. It's a lot of work putting out your own music. You know,
Right.
it's one of those things. It's like I was saying earlier. It's really gratifying because you get to communicate with people that are into your band, and you're really hands on in that way. But you know, once you're packing all those CDs and all that stuff, and you know, we have to send everything out to get pressed. We deal with all the pressing and everything. So, like I said, the only thing we don't do is the PR, which we get John to do, because you know that's where like I draw the line. Like fuck, I hate sitting at a computer more than I need to, so I let John do that shit.
Okay. Uh, what are you currently jamming? I'm sorry. What did you like last listen to?
I don't know, Lionel Richie. I don't know.
I was gonna say, I hope it's
Probably.
not Taylor Swift. I hope it's not Taylor Swift.
No, no. To I don't know, man. I listen to a lot of different things. I actually really like. There's a Lionel Richie album called "Can't Slow Down," and it's actually one of my favorite albums to like listen to while I'm like working on shit. Like we were cutting out covers on Friday, like me and Mel. We had a kind of like a date night where we just like, you know, we got rid of the kids. We sent the kids to their grandparents, and we just threw on some Lionel Richie and cut out "Fuck the Facts" covers all night. So
Okay. Do you have
but
like
yeah,
an album of the year for this year? Like a metal band?
do I have one? Not yet. No. Do you? Did you pick one?
I mean, I got a
It
couple contenders. Couple contenders.
better
Uh,
be us.
yeah. I mean, yeah. Your album's fucking sick, dude. Someone that y'all should probably check out is God Awful Truth. They just released a sick album. Friday
Okay.
actually. Should check that shit out,
God
man.
Awful Truth. That's
Hmm.
cool. I like that band name.
Oh yeah, it's fucking sick too. And they just fucking killed it on that. So what countries have you been to? I know you can't name them all, but however many you
Uh,
could name.
we've been to a lot. Um, I can tell you where we haven't been that I would like to go.
Okay.
I haven't been to Japan, which I really would love
Really?
to
I
at
would have
some
figured you
point.
guys would have gotten there. Huh.
Yeah, I don't know, man. We're not. I don't feel like we actually get a lot there. Like it's one of the places that we don't really get a lot of orders from and stuff. Like once in a while we'll get like a random one, but it's not a place that we sell a lot of stuff to. So
I feel like they're
uh,
very closed off from like the rest of the world, kind of. You know, they have like their own
yeah,
thing going on.
yeah. I don't know how we did like when we were on Relapse. Actually, when we were on Relapse, I always remember there was always kind of like a Japanese edition that was put out for albums.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly why. There was some sort of reasoning why Japan always had like a different kind of version of albums. But that's a place I would really love to go. Russia's another place I've never been, but I'd love to go. The guys from Psyopus got to go there. I was super jealous. Um, uh, where else? Like Australia, not gone there.
Oh
Or
man.
I guess Southeast Asia. Yeah, we tried to go to Australia like years ago. I just couldn't get it together. I don't know. The guy that we were talking with at the time was like, I think it was like a legit promoter, and he was just trying to do all this crazy shit. And we're just like, we don't care. We just want to fucking go there and play shows, you know, as long as like we can cover our, you know, our expenses. That's all we cared about. Like, you know, so because going to Australia is super expensive, as
Yeah,
you
I'm
can
sure.
imagine. So, so that's another place. Like any Southeast Asia, we've never been there. Haven't been to South America either. So those are probably the
Really? I see. I thought
places.
that you had been like kind of all over the place.
No, no, not
So it's
everywhere.
really just been like Europe and the United States then.
Yeah, yeah. We went to Mexico.
Well,
Did a
I
tour
was
in
gonna say, like,
Mexico.
why did you choose to record that in Mexico? Discord Mexico.
Yeah. Well, we did a tour in Mexico,
So you're
and
just like, might as well just record this, or
no, the album Discourse Mexico.
yeah.
No, that album was recorded in Ottawa. It was recorded here.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I'm
They're just
confused.
like yeah. It is confusing. I'm also confused by it. It's a very confusing backstory. Um, but anyway, we did a tour of Mexico with Landmine Marathon, uh, which is a band from the I think Phoenix, and that was like 2014 or something. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah, we've been a lot of like cool places. We got to go to Scandinavia, so like Norway and Finland, Sweden. That was a lot of fun. UK tour. That was a blast as well. Yeah, yeah. Usually, like touring in general, especially now. Like, see, it's always funny when you look back on stuff because you always like. It always seems better than it was. You forget about like all like the shitty shows and like sleeping on floors and all that stuff. You're like, oh, that was a lot of fun. So yeah.
Well, you have any awesome tour stories?
Oh, tour, awesome tour stories. Oh my God. There's a lot of tour stories. I don't know, man. What do you want? Give me some sort of subject.
I
There's
don't know,
like so much
man.
fucking crazy shit that's happened.
What's the first thing that pops in your head?
The first thing that pops into my head. Okay, there's this isn't even that much of a tour story because it was a show we played in Canada. Trying to in Hawaii, I think Hawaii Naganda. We played anyway. It's about 6 or 7 hours from here. Um, and so we went and played this show in Hawaii, and we came. This is winter. It was like January. I think it was January 2016. So actually, this was I think Desire Will Rot era where we're almost stopping to play shows. And coming back from this show, we were driving home because we always drove home right after the shows when it was the last show. So we're driving home at night, and I asked Mel to pull over because I need to take a leak. And she pulls over into this little path, and the van gets kind of like stuck, right? So we're like, okay, fuck, this kind of sucks. So we try to back up and we're not able to, but we're able to go forward. So it's like, okay, let's go forward. And the more we go forward and we get stuck again, and we realize that we're actually on like a skidoo trail and we're completely fucking stuck in the snow. Uh, and
Okay, for Americans, what's a skidoo trail?
You know what a skidoo is?
No. I
No.
live in Texas, man.
Holy fuck. A skidoo is like it's like a vehicle that rides on the snow.
So a snowmobile.
Yeah, but it doesn't have wheels. It has just like it's like skis instead
Okay.
of wheels.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I forgot. Anyway, when we first got stuck, we called the tow truck, and they tried to pull us out, and this tow truck got stuck, and he had to get a tow truck to get him out.
No way.
Yeah. Anyway, it was the most fucked up thing. I don't want the story to go on forever. So we got stuck completely. We tried so hard to get out. We emptied the van. We tried pushing it. We tried all this shit. I called CAA, and CAA is kind of like a triple A for you guys.
Okay.
So the guy brings me. He's like, I can't do anything for you. So he brings me to this other place where they have these like crazy trucks, and basically no one can help us, right? So I've been in so many insane situations in my life, like on tour, but this was the first time ever that I was like, I have no idea how the fuck we're gonna get out of this, because like anyone that's usually supposed to be able to help you can't help us, And I was just like, this is so fucked up. And this is the middle of winter, and we're freezing. The van is running, and at some point we're gonna like run out of gas, so we won't be able to have heat on. And anyway, eventually
Jesus.
we stay there, I think like 7 or 8 hours, And in the morning, we call the cops and we're just like, we're fucking stuck. Like, we don't know what to do. And the cop shows up, and as this cop is showing up, there's like what I called like a snow tank. So it's basically this fucking huge thing that I guess kind of like keeps the Skidoo Trail functioning or cleans it, right? So this guy in the snow tank comes, and the cop asks him, "Can you help him?" And he offers to help us. So he hooks up his like, and this guy has no problem driving on the snow. It's a fucking tank, right? It doesn't have like tires; it's just got like those tank fucking treads.
Okay.
So that guy like hooks up his tank with a chain to our van, and he's like, "Just so you know, I'm not responsible for what happens to your van." And we're just so like fucking freaked out by the whole thing. We're just like, we don't care. Just get us out of here. This fucking sucks. So the guy's like, okay, I'll start driving and you got to steer. And I just thought it would be like this like slow thing where he's like drives and you're like slowly pulling you out. But he just started and he just fucking just like ripped us like super fast along the way, and actually like smashed one of the rear view mirrors. No, not the rear view, the side mirror.
Oh shit!
Yeah. Anyway,
Just because the force was so hard or something. It just
no. Well, it hit a tree. The mirror hit a tree and just like broke it off.
Oh.
But we were just like, you know. Anyway, this guy pulled us out. And he was like, "Oh, sorry." It's like, we don't fucking care. I don't even give a fuck about the mirror. And I was just like being out of that. It was just like, it was driving on the road. I was just like, felt like high. I was just so fucking like pumped, you know, because I don't know. Maybe it doesn't sound like that fucked up of a story, but that's like the time that I remember feeling the most kind of, I guess, like defeated in a way, whereas like, I have no idea what to do. Like I've been, like I said, in tons of fucking fucked up situations or complicated situations, but something kind of always clicks and you always figure it out. But this was the only time where it just kind of like felt like really helpless. So getting out of that, like really just like opened my mind, and like, you know, it was like one of those, you know, my life was never in danger, but I kind of felt one of those like how lucky I was situations.
So that was the worst experience. What about the best one?
Oh, the best one? I don't know. There's been a lot of great things, man. Like MDF, I think was huge. That might be one of some of the best shows we've played.
Is that the largest crowd you played to?
Oh yeah, I think MDF for sure is definitely the largest crowd that we played to.
How many people you think?
I don't know. I'm horrible at guessing that, but I would guess it was probably like 1,000 or 2,000.
Oh shit!
Like there was a lot of people, man. For like,
damn.
Yeah, there was a lot of people. Yeah, it was crazy. Like MDF's a funny thing. At least like back in the day, there's so many like bands like ours that are used to playing, you know, like a basement to like 80 people or like fucking less than that. You know, they get to play to like, you know, a couple of thousand people. It's really weird. It's surreal. But yeah, MDF I think was definitely a highlight. Like a lot of the touring that we did in Europe was amazing. A lot of fun. I know like some of the shows we played in Paris. The first time we played in Paris it wasn't even like a crazy huge show, but it was like a small packed show, and the crowd was just like going wild. So I don't know. It's one of those things, man. Like when you have those experiences, it's just like, I don't know. It's like, that's why I do this. You know, it just makes it all worthwhile, you know?
Right. All right. Well, that's about it for me. Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
I think I blabbed enough. Yeah.
So be sure to check out Plie Norsar. Is that how you say it?
Noisar? Yeah, that's close. That's
okay.
Good.
There we go. I'm just going to call it Full Darkness.
We're total assholes, eh? Giving it a French title. It's fucking...
Oh, yeah, well, so that was something I was going to ask Mel, actually. But why do you guys have French and English lyrics? Like, are you just trying to flex on us that you know two languages?
Well, I could say one of the things, like the area that we live in specifically, because we live right on the border of Ontario and Quebec. So it's very bilingual where we are. So I'm English, but I actually grew up in the Quebec side, right? Whereas Vil and Mel are both French. Mel is actually more from Montreal, but Vil is also from this area. So it's just like, again, it's just part of who we are, you know. And when Mel joined the band, when she joined the band, actually, she couldn't speak any English, like
Oh wow.
very, very, very little English. When we would play shows, I would be the one that would actually talk to the crowd because she couldn't communicate in English. So when we met, we only spoke French to each other. But later on, like when we started doing albums, it's like, if you want to write songs in French, like write songs in French. And it's just something that she does, you know. And I feel like, you know, it's just who we are. It just has to do with like the place that we live and the people that we are, you know. Like both my kids speak French and English all the time. Like she speaks French to the kids, I speak English to the kids. You know, they go to a French school, but yeah, it's just who we are. We're not trying to like, hey, look at us, we're fucking bilingual, take that. You know, it's just like, yeah, it's just who we are. Like, you know, I think I and I like that we put songs in French because I feel like it's something that bands, even from the area that we are, shy away from sometimes because they feel like it makes it not accessible in a way, you know. Uh, and like the album title, it's not like we gave it a French album title because, like, you know, we wanted to be assholes and fuck with English people, but you know, it's really just what fit the album the best, and that's what it is, you know. I think it just sums up who we are, you know.
Okay, well that's legit, man. But be sure to check out Pliane Norsar, the 7th album from Fuck the Facts, which drops November 20th through Noise Salvation. You've got vinyl, CDs, tapes, and shirts over at fuckthefacts.com. Is that the right link? Okay,
yeah,
that's what
exactly.
I thought. Are y'all selling any of that through Bandcamp or?
Yeah, you can also get that stuff through Bandcamp, but we sell it a bit cheaper through our website because Bandcamp takes a cut. So if you want to save a couple of dollars, you get it through fuckthefacts.com.
Okay, so fuckthefacts.com. And you guys are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't think you guys have a Fuck the Facts YouTube, but you have a Noise Salvation one. Do you have a Fuck the Facts YouTube?
We kind of had one, but we sort of just like moved it over to the Noise Salvation one, you know.
Okay, that's legit.
Yeah, we didn't do a crazy amount of stuff on ours anyway, so we just started putting it all there.
And so I would assume all your music, I know all the music's on Bandcamp. I assume it's all on Spotify and all the other streaming sites?
Yeah, everything's out there. Yeah,
well,
we're legit. We're a real band. We're a real grown-up band.
Yeah. As for me, drop my channel a like so you always know when I go, or you might follow so you always know when I go live. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. YouTube folks, if you like the video, please drop a like, tickle the notification bell, and please subscribe. Check out my music, The Sound That Ends Creation. My 5th album, Memes, Dreams, and Flying Machines, is out now. I'm announcing my next guest later on in the week. I believe they're announcing their album on Monday, and I don't want to take any of the wind out of their sails. But yeah, I'll be announcing that soon. But thanks for being here, man. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Really appreciate it. I had a blast.
And thank you guys for watching and listening.